When I first came across Justin at Californian Coffee,
Cuando yo estaba chiquillo, mi abuelita
it raised a question for me personally.
inteligente.
And that question is,
Y yo quería
what
la vida
is
que ella tenía.
an American
Y me dijo, mijo,
doing in Altrincham with
la
his
vida
Canadian
que yo
wife?
tengo. Trabaja.
And to me, it just seems like a reasonable question to ask. I mean, it's such a strange place to come to
Y ahí está la
if
vida.
you are going into another country.
California
But that's
coffee
exactly what it was.
is a home away from home.
So I knew there must have been something
We personally
further
created
beneath the
ourselves.
story that you could see from the
We knew
front.
that if we were
You
gonna
could see here the green shop with the gold lettering,
knew we were going to be in here.
Californian Coffee. You could see the fact it was a coffee shop. You could see the fact that he was overwhelmingly friendly, as was Diane, his wife. And you could see they were bending over backwards to give you great service. But to make a film, again, like I've said before, it's quite easy to go in and make a film about.
I was born
coffee
in
shop.
East LA Hospital.
But the fact is, who would want to watch a film about a coffee shop? I mean, who? I certainly wouldn't want to watch a film about a coffee shop. So I knew there had to be a story behind
Who I am.
the reason this American
9% of people
was in Altrincham
have a coffee from their
and what led him to this point.
independent or a big chain.
So after talking to Justin, it came out that there was more to it. He was actually Mexican,
Makes the coffee taste
who moved over to the USA,
jacked.
who ended up moving around here, there and everywhere, and eventually settling in Altrincham. And because of his experience, his coffee was clearly going to be very, very different, which it was. So the job for me was, how do you tell this story
And it may just be water. but
and
water-
create
water-
this
This is
love
like the next
for Justin, Diane and the coffee shop? The only real way to do that for me is to tell the story.
So from Hollywood.
So the whole idea initially was to find the bigger story of why he is here, the bigger story of why
Vegas,
his approach to things is the way it is, and the bigger story of how it affects their coffee in their shop.
hours.
And I think
4 in the morning.
the story of the Mexican did that very, very well.
I make coffee.
Of course, there has to be moments in a film
That made this machine. That's it's actually popcorn. It just blows hot air. And it takes anywhere
there
from
has to be moments that you don't expect.
say 12 to
So at the
16
start of that film,
how cold
I
it is.
wanted to grab your attention right away.
It would go just from a green bean.
And I thought, well, the best way to do that is to get Justin to speak in his
I didn't know if I was
native
doing
tongue,
it right.
Spanish, Mexican. And that's exactly what I did. So the film begins with Justin speaking in Spanish.
As long as it just tastes
And for me, that raises the question from the audience,
but you're always gonna
which is, what on earth is he saying? So this creates that curiosity, and it also creates the desire and the urge for you to continue to watch the film.
is like my own zen.
And the imagery at the beginning also, it had to tell a story of its own.
But by use
That's why we turned up at 5:30 a.m. in the rain, in the cold, because I wanted to create
so some would say
this kind of almost,
this is
in my head I had this smoky, foggy London kind of image in my mind. And I wanted to place this guy from this warm climate into this freezing cold climate,
that's
because again it raises questions. And the moment where he is sat there on the bench is having a smoke before he begins his day, then of course he goes in and he starts to speak Spanish. For me personally, I thought that was a magical moment in that film.
putting these building blocks
I think the Mexican
every day.
more than fulfilled its objective, to the point where it made people fall in love with the story. They fell in love with the characters in the story. The characters in the story, which is Justin and his wife. You also fell in love with the shop, and you realised you were drinking far more than a cup of coffee. You were actually experiencing a taste from home. When Justin mentions all those hours they would spend in that shop every week, it had to feel like home. So the whole objective was fulfilled, and that was to reveal a different kind of story behind what you could see on the surface. And to be honest, I think we did that very, very well. And the whole concept of it being Mexican based on spaghetti western type transitions, I thought it worked very, very well and gave us a film that certainly no other coffee shop would be able to present. And that was how the idea of the Mexican came about.